Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bill Iwan Environmental Justice Award celebration. It's great to have you all with us. My name is Anya Jansen. I serve as the staff attorney for Native Nations Partnerships at Midwest Environmental Advocates. And it's an honor to be with you tonight as we gather to celebrate the people and partnerships that make our work possible. Before we begin this evening, I want to acknowledge that here in Wisconsin, we are on traditional and present day homelands of the Dakota, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Mohegan, Mohican, Ojibwe, Oneida, Pequot, and Potawatomi nations. Most of these nations and their people remain present within what we now call Wisconsin. It is important to acknowledge this relationship and our shared stewardship of not only the lands, but also the waters, from the four lakes in Dejope to the shores of Michigami or Lake Michigan and Gitchigami Lake Superior. This acknowledgement is rooted in the understanding that the work of environmental justice is inseparable from the protection of treaty rights, the defense of water, and the honoring of these relationships. Here at MEA, we are committed to deepening our partnerships with tribal nations and supporting their leadership in efforts to protect land, water, and cultural resources. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to MEA Executive Director, Tony Wilkin-Gibbart.
Thank you so much, Anya. And before we get started tonight, I want to just initially thank our sponsors for their generous support of Midwest Environmental Advocates and for making these awards possible. Our presenting sponsor tonight is Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg. And in addition, we want to thank our other sponsors, Delta Properties, Boardman Clark, Pauling and KO, Heinz Bach, Hawks Quindell, and Community Shares of Wisconsin. These sponsors and many of the folks I see in attendance tonight contribute to the success of Midwest Environmental Advocates. You all make our work possible, and we're so grateful for your generosity. As a nonprofit environmental law center, Midwest Environmental Advocates partners with communities to use the law as a tool to promote justice, to protect clean water, to advance climate solutions, and to ensure that everyone has a say in the decisions that affect their communities and the places that they call home. Right now, across the Great Lakes region, communities are confronting a wide range of environmental threats. And there's no denying that the challenges that we face are complex. And right now, those challenges are in many ways intensifying. For instance, we're seeing agricultural consolidation and the expansion of industrial scale agriculture increasingly test the limits of our laws and our ability to protect healthy water, land, and air. Massive energy projects, infrastructure projects like the Line 5 reroute in northern Wisconsin are putting our rivers, our wetlands, and our climate at risk. And at the same time, we're seeing new and emerging issues that are demanding our attention and our advocacy, like the expansion of hyperscale data centers, which are raising urgent questions about transparency, water and energy use, and who gets to participate in these decisions that will affect our communities and our state for years to come. Responding to these challenges starts with the understanding that while we do have a right to healthy water, land, and air, as a practical matter, that right is not guaranteed. As a practical matter, that right is only guaranteed when people are willing to stand up and defend it. And that's where Midwest Environmental Advocates plays an important role. We're proud to serve as Wisconsin's nonprofit environmental law center, providing legal support to grassroots groups, tribal nations, and communities who are too often excluded from decision making, but are very often directly impacted by it. So, in the face of the challenges that I mentioned, there is something that is happening that should give us hope and that is very, very powerful. Right now in Wisconsin, people are organizing, they are asserting their rights. Young people, for instance, are demanding a livable future in the courts of our state. Communities that have been excluded from decision making are stepping forward and insisting on a seat at the table. As we gather tonight to honor these four leaders, that's in contrast. What the leadership we see from them is in contrast to leadership that is all too prevalent right now, leadership that seeks to concentrate power rather than share it, that dismisses or sidelines community voices rather than listen to them, leadership that treats transparency and accountability as an obstacle and a threat rather than the responsibility of leadership. Now more than ever, it's important for us to honor and lift up a different kind of leadership, a kind of leadership that is rooted in care, in responsibility, in the deep connection that the leader has to place and to the leader's community. And that's the kind of leadership that we're celebrating tonight with these four individuals. We're here to recognize and show gratitude to Brian Rogers, Lisa Anderson, Shaquita McElroy, and Laura Ola. And so I'm excited to get started with that. And to get started with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Midwest Environmental Advocates Climate Justice Fellow, Skylar Harris.
Thank you, Tony, and good evening, everyone. It is my honor today to present this first award to Brian Rogers. At the core of any environmental justice-based initiative is the concept of procedural justice. The idea that communities who will bear the heaviest burden of pollution must be afforded the tools necessary to substantively engage in conversations about those burdens and the respect necessary to impact the outcome of any decision-making process. In many ways, procedural justice is one of the hardest facets of justice to obtain. It requires strong community ties, constant vigilance, and the stamina to maintain years-long battles for community equity against corporations who are used to getting their way. Thanks to community organizers like Brian, the fight to obtain both procedural and substantive justice is getting easier for the most heavily burdened communities in Wisconsin. Brian is the Environmental Justice Director at Walnut Way, a leader of the Wisconsin Eco Justice Base Builders, formerly known as EJII, and a trusted collaborator within the Clean Economy Coalition of Wisconsin. Brian has worked tirelessly to help Black and Brown communities in Milwaukee fight for energy democracy, healthy homes, food sovereignty, and ecological justice. Just this morning, one of those fights came to fruition. In 2025, We Energies filed a tariff application with the Public Service Commission that would, among other things, determine whether hyperscale data centers in its service area would take responsibility for paying for their exorbitant energy generation needs. The PSC's decision in this docket was poised to have devastating impacts for Wisconsinites who were already struggling to pay their bills and would have been forced to pay for the infrastructure investments of multi-billion-dollar corporations. In the face of this possibility, Brian and Walnut Way got to work. They helped organize Milwaukee community members and other environmental organizations to intervene in the docket and write comments to the PSC opposing We Energy's proposed tariff. Thanks to their intervention, the PSC altered the tariff and ensured that data centers and other very large customers would pay 100% of their energy generation costs. Brian's work demonstrates the powerful impact that we have when we come together as neighbors and as environmental organizations fighting for a cleaner future. His passion, kindness, and ability to connect authentically with residents, partners, and policymakers serve as powerful reminders of not only why we do the work that we do, but how it should be done and who needs to be part of the conversation. Congratulations, Brian, on your many wins today. The floor is yours.
Wow, Skylar, thank you so much. That felt really, really nice. Also my bookshelf says hi to your bookshelf. Um,
I was thinking the
and
same.
yeah, MEA is like the social justice organizational equivalent of like the musicians, the older cool musicians that you want to please, and then they come into the club and you're like, oh, like I hope they like what they hear. That's kind of what MEA is in my mind. So it's very much an honor to be here. Really appreciate it. And for what I think in Tony's intro, I really have been reflecting a lot on place and what it means to be rooted in place and how legitimacy and knowledge and memory and ritual celebration are are really fundamental when it comes to struggles for social justice. I think because they give such a deep reservoir of meaning to the word home. And so, like, yeah, very much always appreciate when MEA comes around when they throw down in the docket because, yeah, y'all do exquisite and excellent work. So it's a privilege to be able to work and struggle alongside you. There is a part of me, like the jaded curmudgeon, the cynic in me, that always side eyes awards um, for reasons, and like the Ella Baker got real frustrated at the sort of like the hero worship and the um, you know. But then I tell the curmudgeon in me to like, you should go to therapy because the childlike, compassionate inquirer in me says we need to cultivate more rituals of celebration and remembrance, um, and to really honor each other's contributions, to celebrate the small and the big. Yesterday was a big victory, or 2 days, 3 days ago. And so I think also got to admit there's a little bit of like, I don't know, grief of a life not lived. Um, I also, like, I assume every MEA person here had like big human rights attorney dreams when I was in my mid and late 20s. And circumstance and context and choices and COVID took me in a different direction. And I think that that was probably the most significant detour of my life, because it determined both um, whether and where I had a family, and that turned out to be home, my hometown, and to pursue a different line of work that I suppose I had been doing the entire time, whether through music or writing or organizing, um, which is trying to build a sense of place wherever I was. And it turned out the place I needed to go was back home to the very neighborhood um, where my grandmother raised her children, where my dad is transitioning out of this life, in the very same house, blocks away from Walnut Way. So the project is um, a radically humanistic attempt to have a really, really good time where we are with what we have. And it turns out we have a lot. And so the award is like, it's all of ours. I think in like the Fred Rogers way of when he reminded kids to like think of all the people that it took in order to be right in the moment that you are right now, and how sacred and precious that is, and how immediately we learn the lesson of interconnectedness and interdependency, interbeing. And so the kind of leadership that Tony was describing in his introductory remarks, I think really is the like that is the ingredient that we need more of, and to honor and recognize it everywhere that we see it, and to treat life as precious. Where life is precious, life is precious. And so, um, yeah, I'm just extremely grateful to accept this award on behalf of all the people that touch my life and enrich it. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brian, for your heartfelt remarks and your compliments. I think you've captured the spirit of what we're trying to do with these awards, and I'm really grateful for that. Congratulations on the award and on the win at the PSC. Thank you for the work that you do. We're going to now move to Adam Voskel, Senior Staff Attorney at Midwest Environmental Advocates, who will present the next award to Lisa Anderson.
Thank you. Um, good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Voskel, and as Tony said, I'm a senior staff attorney at Midwest Environmental Advocates. And it is truly an honor to be here tonight to be able to introduce Lisa Anderson, a woman I've had the pleasure to work with and alongside for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years at this point. In our work at MEA, we spend a lot of time thinking and talking about the legal and regulatory systems that govern how we protect our environment. Um, and those systems do matter. But every once in a while, you meet someone who reminds you that real change doesn't start with the systems, it starts with the people. People like Lisa who recognize a problem and refuse to accept that it is unfixable. Lisa saw what was happening in her hometown in Nelsonville, Wisconsin, where the drinking water of many families has been contaminated by agricultural pollution. And she made a decision. She decided she was going to understand the problem, and she decided she was going to do something about it. In many ways, Lisa is a self taught expert. She's immersed herself in the science of groundwater contamination, and that covers things like transport through the ground to the aquifer. It gets very technical very quickly. But she's built relationships with experts, and she's helped translate that complex data and verbiage into something her neighbors can understand. She's organized well sampling efforts, compiled and shared water quality data, and brought visibility to an issue that is too often hidden, quite literally hidden underground. She's shown up again and again at public meetings that can become quite contentious. But nonetheless, she has asked difficult questions. She has pushed regulators and elected officials to do more, to do better, and to take seriously their responsibility to protect public health. At MEA, I have had the privilege of working alongside Lisa, and I can say without hesitation that she has made us all better advocates. Her persistence pushes all of us to stay focused on what matters most. For her courage, her leadership, and her unwavering commitment to protecting Wisconsin's water, it is again my great honor to present the Bill Iwin Environmental Justice Award to Lisa Anderson. Lisa, congratulations, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, everybody. First, I'm going to inject a little bit of humor. I cannot believe you're making me follow Brian. I am not that eloquent. And I'm just so impressed by the way that Brian spoke. I don't, at just such a deep, impersonal level. When I thought about what I might want to say, I also, I feel a little embarrassed about getting an award because it's so many people that have given so much for this effort to, raise awareness and hopefully someday change what modern agriculture is doing to our rural communities. And so as Adam said, we had contaminated water. We didn't know it. We fed it to our kids. And then, once we found out that our water was contaminated after we've lived in this house 18 years, we automatically thought that the Wisconsin DNR would work to protect us and to reverse this injustice. And they have done anything but. I just almost don't have words to express my dismay and disgust that this can be allowed in America, and that people are drinking water and don't know that it could be killing them. So, I just try to raise awareness. I hope that we elect people who care about the environment and public health, and that we start funding the DNR so that there can be, true oversight. I guess that's mostly what I wanted to say, that, Wisconsin used to be a leader in conservation and environmental protection, and we've completely lost that. And I still have hope that we can turn this back around. So thank you very much. I mean, I am honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And your voice has always been powerful and eloquent. So thank you for your remarks. We'll now turn to Senior Staff Attorney at MEA, Dan Gustafson, who will present the next award.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Dan Gustafson, and I'm a senior staff attorney at MEA. It's my privilege tonight to introduce Shaquita McElroy, one of this year's Bill Iwin Environmental Justice Award recipients. As the executive director of the Coalition on Lead Emergencies Lead Safe and Healthy Homes project in Milwaukee, Shai is on the front lines of the fight to eliminate lead hazards and prevent childhood lead poisoning. But what makes her leadership so powerful is not just what she's working to address, but how she is doing it. Shai leads a dedicated and highly skilled team of outreach workers who go door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, educating families about the dangers of lead exposure and the importance of testing. Her team meets people where they are, bringing information and resources and working to gain their trust. Shai's work Shai understands that information alone is not enough. Shai's work builds bridges between families and decision makers, ensuring that those affected by environmental injustice are not just spoken about, but are directly heard. She brings parents and caregivers into conversations at community meetings, at City Hall, and at the state capitol. She helps transform lived experience into public testimony and policy change. In doing so, she's changing who gets to shape the decisions that affect Milwaukee's children and their families. Her leadership is both strategic and deeply personal. She understands that behind every statistic about lead exposure is a child, a family, navigating uncertainty, and that real change requires sustained relationships, consistent advocacy, and a refusal to let these harms be ignored. At MEA, we've had the privilege of witnessing Shai's work, working with her, and learning by her example. Shai reminds us that the effective advocacy is not only about expertise, it's about presence, persistence, and partnership with the community. For her leadership, her commitment to families, and her unwavering pursuit of lead-safe and healthy homes for all, it is my honor to present the Bill Iwin Environmental Justice Award to Shaquita McElroy. Congratulations, Shai. You can unmute and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dan, and everyone at MEA. It feels weird, just like everyone else said, receiving the award. I feel like every single one of those sentences that started with shy should definitely say we at Cole, because I couldn't have done any of anything without the help of my team, without the support of MEA and all of our amazing partners. Um, One thing that Dan said that's definitely true that I can attest to is it's very personal for me. Being a mother of a lead poisoned child and on a day-to-day basis encountering lead poisoned children, you can't help but for it to hit home, hit you in the chest, where you stand up for these children. You have a voice for them. You teach their parents to uplift their voice and be heard and who to talk to and when to talk to them. And you give them, I like to tell people, including my children, you have a toolbox and you supply that toolbox called life with all the tools that you need to make a difference, to make an impact in the world, to make a stance in the world, to make your voice be heard. And so I just view my job as supplying parents with the tools and resources that they need to take on bigger names and bigger places than themselves to make change for their children. Our children are our future. And I know that sounds cliche, but at the same time, it's the honest to God truth. You know, these are our next lawyers and doctors and teachers and principals and police officers. And to be the one that's on the front line fighting for them to have a chance at having a successful life without having to deal with developmental disabilities and having to deal with autism and all the things that lead poison brings on, it's an honor for me. So this is their award. This is their time, and I'm just the person with the microphone relaying the message. That's all. I wish to continue the work that we're doing. I think it's so important what everyone on this call is doing in their respective fields. And I love how it ties together. Partnership is everything. And overall, I've said this in numerous town hall meetings, it takes a village. And this is our village, and I'm proud to be a part of that village. It's so many days that I've waken up and gotten ready for work and really didn't feel like it, or you know how you have those down days. And when I get to work and I talk to parents and I interact with them or I talk to partners, it definitely brightens up my day every single time because it reminds me why I'm here. It reminds me what my mission is. It reminds me what the goal is and how close we are to achieving and reaching it if we just keep fighting. So I put on my warrior costume along with everyone else and I get out there in the field and I make sure that I stand up for what's right. And what's right is for our children to have a bright future. And that's what I'm going to continue to fight for. I appreciate, love you guys. I definitely, again, am honored. And I can't wait to be on next year's award conference call so that I can see who else is out in the world fighting a good fight and being a leader like I know so many people around the state of Wisconsin are. We I think we got the best state out of all of them. So I'll venture off and say that. And it's people like us who make sure that we put our stamp on America, put our stamp on the world so that we lead by consistently lead by example, and that's what I'll vow to continue to do. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a ton, Shai. We're incredibly lucky to be in your village and working alongside of you. For our last award, I'm going to turn the floor over to Senior Staff Attorney Rob Lee.
Well, good evening, everyone. And before I present the next award, I just want to go off script for just a second because we've heard a common theme for each of our awardees, and I think Shai put it best. I even had a note here that it takes a village and everyone acknowledging all the other folks who have impacted their lives and part of the reason that you're there. Well, as I understand it, we have an open nomination process for these awards. It was members of your village who nominated you for this, and they're the ones who think you're deserving of this reward. So I just wanted to say that and make sure you take heart in that and that you are very much deserving. And I think that same statement applies to our next awardee as well. So I'll just go right into that. And thanks for letting me take the liberty there, Tony. But yeah, I'm Rob Lee. I'm senior staff attorney here at MEA. I am very excited to honor Laura Ola with MEA's 2026 Environmental Justice Award. And that excitement is it's only slightly tempered because unfortunately Laura isn't able to join us tonight. But no matter, because we are going to honor her all the same. Now, as you may know, Laura co-founded and is the executive director of Citizens for Safe Water Around Badger, which was initially formed to address well pollution from the Badger U.S. Army ammunition plant over in Baraboo. Now, as I understand it, that organization was formed, back in 1990 around a kitchen table, and Laura has been at it ever since, achieving important victories, like shutting that ammo plant down and getting some of the land transferred in trust for the benefit of the Ho Chunk Nation, right along the way. But I wasn't here in Wisconsin for all of that. And I didn't actually hear any of that from, Laura herself trying to self-aggrandize that that's not really her way, if you know her. But I had to learn these legends of old from others who fought alongside her then and now, members of her village. Um, just to put it in context, I was 4 years old when C-SWAB was founded, and now I'm 40, right? And that's how long Laura's been at it, working on behalf of others. But let me tell you what I have been around for these last 8 years, or going on 8 years since I've known Laura and been working at MEA. I mean, we first met, I was very green, fresh out of Notre Dame, didn't know much of anything at the time, and certainly didn't understand the extraordinary yet very unassuming person that I was dealing with, right? And I've just learned so much from her since then, right? And I've had the chance to see the impact that she has, which is far broader than I'm sure she cares to admit, right? So the big issue I was working on with her is PFAS, or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And Laura was on this like a couple of years before everyone else was. Even though, well, I won't name them, but even though certain elected officials like to take credit for it, it was Laura who first petitioned DNR for a PFAS groundwater standard 10 years ago, because she knows that private wells are one of the most, if not the most vulnerable source of drinking water in Wisconsin, and that regular folks aren't equipped to deal with something like that, right? And we still don't have that standard, but thanks to her efforts and others, we may very well have one by year's end, right? But it was Laura, even back then, meeting with some of the very first impacted community members, like up in Marinette and Peshtigo and Tyco and all of that started breaking in the news, and meeting with people from around the state, providing guidance. Some of those folks would go on and form their own organizations, just like Laura did, right? Uh, I have specific examples, but I'll probably digress too far if I go there. So, right, it was Laura who compiled, and I'm sure still is, compiled an exhaustive PFAS library that I myself went through to learn everything about these, and that I sent everyone and their brother to, right, for as a resource for technical information, right? And that's just a few of the things that she's done lately. Now multiply it by five. We don't have time for all of that, but here's the upshot. Laura, like others on being awarded tonight, she embodies what it means to be an advocate for environmental justice. She sees the issues before others do, and doesn't just like sound an alarm and freak everyone out, but is bringing people together and educating them and empowering them to take action and advocate not just for themselves, right, but for all those people who are never going to know what she and those other folks, have done to help make their water safe. And, on top of that, she's had the fortitude to persevere for all these years, even in the face of constant attacks from money and other vested interests, because she's not afraid to fight for what and for she knows is right, and on behalf of who she needs to be fought for. So uh, and she's had to deal with, again, other people taking credit for her work. So maybe she doesn't see all of that as a superpower, but I certainly do, and it really has been a privilege to engage with her and watch her work. So, for all of those reasons and more, it is very much my pleasure to present Laura Ola with the 2026 Environmental Justice Award. Congratulations, Laura.
Thanks, Rob. Um, in their way, each of our four award winners have put the focus on the coalitions, the networks, the villages, the communities that they're a part of. Um, and I understand that. But I also want to say that each one of these four leaders has helped build that sense of community, built those coalitions. I've seen it. They've helped spark a similar sense of purpose in their neighbors, in their relationships. They've expanded what's possible when folks come together to protect the places and the people that they love. And so, as part of the awards tonight, uh, we have the honor to direct a donation in each awardee's name to the organizations and the networks that they are a part of and that have supported their work over time. So Brian has chosen to direct a donation to the web at Walnut Way. Lisa is directing a gift be made to Clean Wisconsin. Shai has selected that the Coalition on Lead Emergency, or COLE, be awarded a donation. And in Laura's honor, we will be making a gift to Citizens for Safe Water around Badger. In addition to that, each awardee will receive a personalized lantern, and maybe we'll try to put an image of that on the screen, if that's possible. Here it comes. So this is a lantern that was personally created by our very own senior staff attorney, Adam Voskel. Uh, and it's an item that really symbolizes what these four leaders are all about. They have helped illuminate pathways for a more just and sustainable world and community for all of us. And we're really grateful, again, to recognize that. So, as we close, I want to thank our award winners for their time, for their wonderful reflections tonight, and again, express our deep admiration for them. They've given us a chance to pause, to reflect, to celebrate, and to draw energy and inspiration from one another. So as we leave tonight, I hope we have that sense of gratitude and appreciation, and also a sense of renewed possibility in what we can do and achieve together. So thank you all for being here. This has been truly a wonderful evening.